It's that time of the week again where we get to talk about brand new VR games coming out this week, games coming out next week, and of course some of that freaking juicy VR gaming news. But before we dive into that, I would like to ask you one simple favour: smash like, subscribe. It takes 2 seconds of your life. I know a lot of you are watching these videos, and it would massively be appreciated if you just take that time to smash the sub button, because then you get fed all these videos all the freaking time. Now, let's dive into our new VR games this week. Kicking it off with the one and only title that dropped this week, we have Tier 1. Now this is sort of like the what comes after Onward. Now Onward was a game that a lot of people loved, but a lot of the devs actually left that team and they have formed their own development studio, making Tier 1 direct action. Well, that just sounds super fancy, doesn't it? What sets this apart from all the other sort of FPS shooters that we have currently in VR? Well, this one, they're really claiming to be as sort of realistic as they can possibly be within a VR game. Literally, you can pick up your injured friends, carry them out of the battlefield and give them medical aid. There's tons to this that just make this a very realistic and grounded experience. Now, this is actually available to play as of right now in early access on the Quest. So if you're looking for something like this really sort of almost like sim situation, then I feel like this is going to be for you. Go check it out. If you're into your mill sims, then go check this out and give them some support. VR gaming news. Well, once again, this is where things truly get interesting. I love the VR gaming news because it's where like the spices happened across the week. Now, to kick it off, we have had news that we have a brand new VR gaming showcase coming out in March. Now, I love the guys behind this, the guys and girls behind this. They're incredible people that only really want to push the industry forward, and I just love to be around people like that. So massive props to them. We are going to be doing a dedicated video after the show finishes to be able to talk about all the games and exciting things that they have to talk about in that showcase. But there is one that I am suspecting that we're going to hear about, and I just wanted to sort of bring it back up again. It's been a little while since I've spoken about it, and that is Hitman World of Assassination. Now, of course, notoriously, the Hitman franchise has hit pretty badly when it comes to the VR side of things. Now, it hasn't stopped people playing and enjoying those games, because people can see right through the badness and just see the goodness and enjoy the actual thing which they want, which is being able to play Hitman in virtual reality. Does it matter whether it's good or bad? Yeah, massively to me, actually. The Quest port was freaking hideous, and the PC port had a bunch of issues. Now, apparently they have solved all of those things when it comes to the fourth release for Hitman World of Assassination, now coming to the PSVR 2. Fingers crossed this is going to be good, and also fingers crossed that they then implement all of those changes to the PC port of this game as well. I don't know if that's happening or not, but it would be good. Nonetheless, so that is my suspected title that we're going to hear about, probably the biggest one we're going to hear about, I reckon, in the VR Game Showcase. But hey, maybe they'll surprise us with some freaking epic news. Next up, we have The Living Remain. Now, this is actually an indie game that I freaking loved. It used to only be available on PCVR, and now it's making its way to the Quest. Now, this is made by just literally a couple of people, and I freaking loved this game when I went through it. This is a zombie apocalypse story-based experience where you're going to go through, basically try and get back to your family whilst going through some dread crap up against some zombies and some epic action moments. This game kind of has it all. I actually really love this. It's one of those sort of hidden gems that not a lot of people talk about, but personally really enjoyed. This is coming to the Quest now. Get hyped, get excited, because I really freaking love this and I just want to see it do well on the platform. Small development studio behind this, and I just want to see them succeed with their epic vision, because that means they get to make more games for us that will get even better and even cooler over time. But definitely check this one out if you're into zombie games. Again, it's just like a zombie story shooter, but it's just got some really cool points in it. Next up in some news, Among Us VR has now changed. Well, they're calling it Among Us 3D, and they've done this for a very specific reason, I think, honestly, because the player base is pretty small in VR, and there's just not a lot of people playing it very often. So what they have now done is merged the flat version of the game and the VR version of the game into one singular thing, where you're now going to matchmake against flat screen players and VR players, which is going to be pretty cool, to be honest with you. And now that brings us to Among Us 3D rather than Among Us VR, which I actually think is a pretty cool concept, and I think it'll do way better for the game and give it more longevity, and even potentially get some of those flat players to eventually try it in VR. Who knows? In some other exciting news, we have Smash Drums making its way to the PSVR 2. This is long overdue in my opinion. It's a great rhythm game, potentially one of the best rhythm games actually, at least for me at least, because I like playing the freaking drums, and I think it's dope that the developer behind this just makes this game, updates this game all the freaking time for free, by the way, which is another key point to why this is just such a freaking cool experience. Again, one of the better rhythm games. If you like drumming, if you like the idea of drumming, or if you like the idea of potentially drumming one day, this will bring you into that world. And last but not least, in the news section, we have Into the Radius 2 making its way to the Quest, and I am very, very excited about this. Now, they did an incredible job porting Into the Radius to the Quest platform back in the day, and I really hope that that means that Into the Radius 2 is going to get the same treatment. It looked stunning. It was kind of mind-blowing that they even got it running on the Quest with Into the Radius 1, and now we're getting the second one come across too. And now the exciting thing about this is if you're an Into the Radius fan, this means multiplayer in Into the Radius. So I'm very, very excited about this. I personally have been really enjoying Into the Radius 2 on the PC side of things, but it's going to be so much more accessible to, well, the masses, and of course just the ease of chucking on your headset when it comes to this coming to the Quest. So very excited, looking forward to seeing what this is going to be like. Cannot wait. Coming up next week. Well, actually, we have a pretty exciting week when it comes to games next week. Wrapping up the end of February means that we're going to get a bunch of cool games, and kicking it off is Farming Simulator VR. Now, personally, I'm not a massive farmer, believe it or not, but I know a ton of you out there really love your farming sim games, so this coming to Quest seems to be a big deal for a lot of people. Now, of course, for me, I don't really play those games, so it's not a massive deal for me, but I can see how a lot of people are very freaking excited to be able to step into the shoes of that game and actually experience what it's like firsthand to be able to do all of that. So very cool that that's finally making its way to Quest. I think this is going to be a big deal for a lot of people. Let me know in the comments down below if you're hyped or you just simply don't care like me. Next up, we have Detective VR. This is a brand new MR game coming to the Quest 3 and Quest 3S. In this, of course, you're going to be a detective, if you can believe it, and you're going to be solving mysteries whilst using your own space to be able to basically convert into these sort of scenarios where you're going to be able to investigate them and work out exactly what happened in this crime. Honestly, I think this is a pretty cool concept and a good use of mixed reality. So, I mean, obviously, we know that I'm a massive proponent and fan of mixed reality, pushing that style of things forward, but this is a very intriguing way of them using it, so I'm looking forward to giving it a go myself. Next up, we have The Obsessive Shadow. This is an indie horror game that is coming to the PSVR 2. It looks kind of freaky. I believe it came out a long time ago for other platforms and stuff, but this is now coming to the PSVR 2, which is exciting. I've actually watched a couple of videos on this. Not a massive horror game fan myself because, well, I poo my pants every single time I jump into one, but nonetheless, I watched a couple of videos on this just so I could get a feel for the game. Looks like it would be pretty damn terrifying. It's going to make you absolutely cack your pants. So yeah, if you're into that, well, get ready for a shadow to chase you around. And last but not least, this week we have All Aboard making its way out now as well, which I'm very excited about. This is actually cool because you get to go in and play some board games with your friends, but virtually, which, you know, on the surface you're probably like, well, why don't you just have people come over and play some board games? Well, it doesn't always work like that. If you have friends around the world, you can actually finally gather and play some fun games. Now, there's a bunch of games that are already going to be coming in this, like with day one launch, but on top of that, I believe they're bringing out some DLCs of some classic games that we know and love. So I guess the more support this game gets, if you're into this kind of thing, then the more board games I'll actually be able to bring to it. I would kind of like to see a world where if you already owned Monopoly or, you know, one of those other board games, that you could maybe scan a code and it would bring it into it. That'd be kind of dope, but I don't think that'll be the case. I think it'll be a paid DLC that you'll have to get eventually. And there you have it, guys. That is another new VR games video. And honestly, it feels bloody good to be back in this seat making these videos. It's 2 weeks in a row we've managed to make them this year because the first lump of this year was just so freaking dry on games that I just physically couldn't make these videos. I can tell you though that we're going to be rolling into March, of course, which is super exciting because we have a ton of games coming out in March that I know about already. Trust me, it's going to be a really, really good month and probably the first good month of 2025 when it comes to VR gaming. It's going to keep you guys busy. It's going to keep those wallets open, buying some dope-ass games. And also, I will just say this, keep your eye out next week on the channel because I will be talking about exactly what's coming out next month. So, subscribe, like, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you in a video then. Peace out. Bye.